Will your criminal case affect your custody case? Hi, I'm Alicia Kinchlow with Kinchlow Law, and one of the 16 factors that a court must consider in a custody case are the criminal convictions of the parties. Now, just because you have a criminal conviction, it does not mean that you lose all custody rights to your child. It is one factor that the court must consider and they must weigh it. Now, whenever you file an initial custody proceeding and generally a modification, and in most counties, any other type of custody related petition, you have to include a criminal history verification form. And this form is going to ask you several questions about yourself, the people in your household, the other party, and the other people in that party's household. And what they have in this form is a list of enumerated offenses. Now, sometimes people are a little bit surprised that not all criminal convictions are listed in these lists of offenses. Generally, the court is looking at things that would usually cause one to believe that that person may pose a risk to the child. So, the most obvious ones are going to be manslaughter, murder, things like that. But also, of course, we think of rape, any other type of sexual or indecent assault. And then also we see things regarding some types of drug offenses included in there. So you want to make sure that you take a look at this list of enumerated offenses and match it up. And one thing you should know that sometimes they're not listed the same way. The codes are not the same way as they may look on a criminal record report that you might pull offline. So you sometimes have to go back and look at the names and look at the statutes and match them up. But that list is provided there. And what the courts may sometimes do is require a parent or party who has an enumerated offense to undergo an evaluation. And that evaluation is usually to see whether or not that parent poses a risk of harm to the child. Now, again, it's not just criminal history that they're looking at. In that form, they're also going to ask you questions about whether or not there has been any type of children and youth or Department of Human Services investigations that are pending. And that generally, again, is to get at whether or not there has been any investigations and findings of neglect or abuse involving the children. So generally that form includes that as well. And you're asked to do this over and over again because we know that things change, situations change. In Philadelphia County, for example, you're going to fill out that form. You have to use that form and submit that form with your complaint or it will be rejected. But then when you go to court, usually they're asking you to fill this out all over again for the same reason I just stated. Things change, things happen. Now, a question I sometimes get is about what happens if a person has a pending criminal charge that is an enumerated offense. So there's a host of measures you can take in order to protect your child if you feel like a person is a risk to them based off of maybe charges or something that's happened. So you always want to speak to an attorney licensed in your area about the facts specific to your case because they can, advise you on the best route to take, the best motion to take to protect yourself and your child. However, in the same statute that talks about the enumerated offenses, and again, I'm going to put in the show notes a link to the custody factors and a link to the enumerated offenses so you can take a look at them. And I'm also going to link to this next one I'm going to mention. There's also a section that allows for a finding to be made regarding whether or not a party who is facing criminal charges that are enumerated offenses to have what we call a risk of harm hearing. And that is where a judge is going to make a determination about whether or not that person poses a risk of harm, even though they have not yet been convicted. And sometimes that can be a little bit difficult if you're on the side where you're facing these pending charges because you generally are advised by your counsel not to speak about pending criminal charges in any other proceeding because you may incriminate yourself. So in that situation, if you find yourself on that side of the situation, you absolutely want to consult with an attorney. But generally, you should do it anyway. You guys hear me say that all the time. Again, I'm going to link to these statutes in the show notes. But a couple of things you should also know about this is that some of the factors the judge is going to take into consideration is going to be how long ago was the criminal conviction, what has happened since that time, did this happen way before the child was even born, did the other party who's now bringing this up or as they're looking at it, do they agree that the parent doesn't pose a risk, or did that other parent know about this and then still chose to have a child with them and co-parent with them for a period of time, and now because they're separated, now it's become an issue. These are all things that the court is going to, absolutely hear testimony on and weigh and make a finding. And again, that may affect the amount of custody or type of custody you have, but it does not mean that you will have no custody at all. It just means that the court will make a finding as to what that should be, and what that, whether it should be supervised. And in some situation, it really may be no contact at all, depending on how egregious the criminal conviction is and, who it actually involved. So again, always speak to an attorney licensed in your area about the facts specific to your case. They can absolutely give you advice on the best way to proceed, no matter which end of the situation you find yourself on. Again, make sure you check out those statutes, take a look at them. If you want to get a consultation with an attorney in my office, you can visit our website at kenshawlaw.com. I also put the telephone number in the show notes. And go ahead and leave us some comments. Let us know what you think about this video. If there are other topics you would like us to cover, please put them in the comments as well. We're going to be doing these videos for the rest of the year, so we want to make sure that it's beneficial to you, and we're covering topics that are of importance to you. And as always, we're going to be here tomorrow for another video on custody, support, and divorce. Until next time, take care.